Before we get into today's deep dive, please remember to subscribe, like, and share this video, as it really does help us to reach a wider audience. But without further ado, let's get into today's deep dive. Every generation believes it faces unique challenges. Our grandparents often spoke about rebuilding after war, working physically demanding jobs, and making do with very little. Our parents witnessed extraordinary technological change, expanding home ownership in many countries, and the growth of the modern economy. Today, we live in a world where we can speak to someone on the other side of the planet instantly, access almost the entirety of human knowledge from a device that fits into a pocket, and receive medical treatments that would have been unimaginable only a generation ago. On paper, life should be easier than ever before. So why do so many people feel as though they're constantly struggling to keep up? Why do millions of people with full-time jobs still worry about paying their rent or mortgage? Why are so many young adults delaying buying a home, starting a family, or even moving out altogether? Why do so many parents feel they have less time with their children despite technologies that were supposed to save time? And why, despite living in one of the most connected periods in human history, do increasing numbers of people say they feel isolated, anxious, or overwhelmed? These aren't simply questions about inflation. They aren't just questions about politics, and they certainly aren't confined to one country. Whether you live in London, Toronto, Sydney, Auckland, New York, or Dublin, many of the same conversations are taking place around kitchen tables every single day. People are asking whether something fundamental has changed about modern life. Is everyday life genuinely becoming more difficult, or does it only feel that way? The answer is far more complicated than many headlines suggest, because while modern society has delivered extraordinary advances in medicine, technology, education, and opportunity, it has also introduced new financial pressures, new expectations, and new ways of living that previous generations never experienced. Some of those changes have undoubtedly improved our quality of life. Others have quietly made everyday life more complicated. Over the next few minutes, we're going to step back from the daily news cycle and examine the bigger picture. We'll look at housing, work, family life, healthcare, food, technology, childcare, retirement, and community. We'll compare experiences across countries, including the United Kingdom, Canada, the United States, Australia, Germany, Japan, and others to understand where these challenges are shared, where they differ, and what lessons can be learned. This isn't about telling you that everything was better in the past, nor is it about suggesting that modern society is in decline. Instead, it's an investigation into one simple question. Has modern life become harder than it used to be? To answer that, we first need to understand how the journey into adult life has changed. Because for many people, the story doesn't begin with buying a house. It begins with leaving home. For most of modern history, becoming an adult followed a familiar path. You finished your education, found a job, moved into a place of your own, and gradually built a life. The details varied from country to country, but the overall journey was remarkably similar. Today, that journey often looks very different. Across much of the developed world, young adults are staying with their parents for longer than previous generations. Some are doing so because they want to save money. Others simply cannot afford to leave. In many cities, the cost of renting has risen dramatically over recent decades. Buying a first home has become even more difficult for many households with larger deposits, higher property prices, and increased borrowing costs, creating barriers that many previous generations either did not face to the same extent or encountered under different economic conditions. This isn't unique to one nation. In the United Kingdom, housing affordability has become one of the country's defining political and social issues. In Canada, rapidly rising property prices in several major cities have dominated national debate for years. Australia has experienced similar concerns, with home ownership becoming increasingly difficult for many younger buyers. In parts of the United States, particularly in large metropolitan areas, housing costs have also risen much faster than incomes for many households, although affordability varies considerably between regions. Germany, long known for a strong rental culture, has also experienced significant pressure in many urban centres, while countries such as Ireland and New Zealand have faced their own housing affordability challenges. Different countries, different governments, different economic models, yet remarkably similar conversations. How did one of life's most basic milestones become one of its greatest obstacles? Part of the answer lies in simple economics. When demand grows faster than supply, prices tend to rise. Many countries have experienced growing populations, increasing urbanization, and changing household patterns. At the same time, new housing has often struggled to keep pace with demand. Planning systems, construction costs, labor shortages, land availability, infrastructure constraints, and local policy decisions all play a role, although the balance differs from one country to another. Then came another change: interest rates. For more than a decade after the global financial crisis, borrowing costs in many advanced economies remained historically low. Cheap credit helped many existing homeowners finance purchases, but it also contributed to rising property values in numerous markets. When inflation surged in the early 2020s, central banks responded by increasing interest rates to slow price growth. For first-time buyers, this created a difficult combination. Homes had already become expensive. Now the cost of borrowing increased as well. Even those able to save for a deposit often found that monthly mortgage repayments had become far higher than they had anticipated. For renters, the picture was frequently no easier, as landlords faced higher borrowing costs and strong demand continued in many areas. Rents also increased in numerous cities, adding further pressure to household budgets. This is where the conversation often becomes emotional. Older generations sometimes remember buying their first home in their 20s and naturally wonder why younger people are waiting until their 30s or beyond. Younger generations often look at those stories and ask a different question: would those same milestones still be achievable under today's conditions? There isn't a single answer. Many people still buy homes, build successful careers, and achieve financial security. Others face a much longer and more uncertain path. The important point isn't that success has become impossible. It's that for many households, the route towards independence has become more expensive, more competitive, and more complex than it once appeared. And housing is only the beginning. Because once you finally have somewhere to live, another question quickly follows. Can you actually afford everything else that comes with modern life? Finding somewhere to live is only the first step. Keeping that home running is where the financial reality of modern life truly begins. Open almost any household budget today and you'll find dozens of regular expenses competing for the same income. Electricity, heating or air conditioning, depending on where you live. Water, internet, mobile phone contracts, insurance, transport, food, council taxes or local property taxes. Streaming services, software subscriptions, cloud storage, banking fees, home maintenance. Some of these costs have always existed in one form or another. Others barely existed a generation ago. Modern technology has undoubtedly improved our lives. We can video call family on another continent, order groceries from a phone, work from almost anywhere, and access more entertainment than any previous generation could have imagined. But convenience has also changed the way many of us spend money. Instead of buying something once and owning it outright, we're increasingly paying small amounts every month to access services. Music, television, productivity software, security systems, fitness apps, online gaming, artificial intelligence tools. Individually, many of these subscriptions appear relatively inexpensive. Together, they can quietly become a significant part of a household budget. This isn't an argument against technology, far from it. Many of these services save time, improve productivity, and create opportunities that simply didn't exist before. The point is something different. Modern life often replaces large one-off purchases with a growing number of recurring payments. The result is that many households feel as though their income is already committed before the month has truly begun. Then, there are the costs we rarely notice because they arrive gradually rather than all at once. Insurance premiums increase. Public transport fares rise. Vehicle maintenance becomes more expensive. Food prices edge upwards. Childcare costs change. Utility bills fluctuate. None of these increases alone necessarily transforms a family's finances, but together they can steadily erode disposable income. Economists sometimes describe this as pressure on household purchasing power. Most people describe it much more simply. It feels like there's never anything left. That feeling is remarkably consistent across many developed economies. Whether people live in Manchester or Melbourne, Vancouver or Chicago, Auckland or Dublin, conversations often sound surprisingly similar. Families ask why each pay rise seems to disappear almost as quickly as it arrives. Young professionals wonder why earning more doesn't always translate into feeling more financially secure. Retirees worry whether fixed incomes will continue to cover rising everyday costs. This is one of the defining characteristics of modern life. Financial pressure isn't always caused by a single dramatic event. More often, it comes from the accumulation of dozens of small obligations that slowly reshape the household budget. And yet, despite these growing pressures, something else has been changing too. In many households, it's no longer enough for one person to work. Across much of the developed world, two incomes have become increasingly common, not simply as a lifestyle choice for many families, but as an economic necessity or practical reality. So how did we reach a point where working more doesn't always seem to create more time or greater financial freedom? To answer that, we need to look beyond money itself and examine something many people now believe has become even more valuable. For centuries, people measured wealth in land, possessions, or money. Today, ask many people what they wish they had more of, and the answer isn't always more income. It's more time. Time with their children, time with their parents, time to exercise, time to prepare healthy meals, time to see friends, time simply to slow down. At first glance, this doesn't seem to make sense. Modern society has developed countless technologies specifically designed to save time. Washing machines replaced hours of manual labour. Dishwashers reduced another household chore. Online banking removed the need to visit a branch. Navigation apps eliminated much of the frustration of getting lost. Video conferencing reduced the need for many business trips. Artificial intelligence is now beginning to automate tasks that once consumed hours. If technology keeps making us more efficient, why do so many people feel busier than ever? Part of the answer lies in a phenomenon economists and sociologists have studied for decades. As technology increases productivity, our expectations often increase alongside it. Being reachable during office hours gradually became being reachable at any hour. A mobile phone stopped being a convenience and became an expectation. Email was supposed to speed up communication. Instead, it often multiplied it. Work no longer ends when many people leave the office. For millions, it follows them home. Notifications arrive during dinner. Messages appear during weekends. Video meetings begin before breakfast. Laptops have allowed work to become more flexible. They have also made it easier for work to enter spaces that were once reserved for family life and personal time. This isn't true for every profession. Many occupations still require people to be physically present. Healthcare workers, teachers, emergency services, factory employees, construction workers, retail staff, hospitality workers. Their challenge is often different. Long shifts, irregular hours, weekend work, night work, staff shortages. In many sectors, productivity has increased, but so have expectations. Meanwhile, for households where both adults work full-time, another challenge emerges. Someone still has to prepare meals, do the shopping, clean the house, organise childcare, attend school meetings, book medical appointments, look after ageing parents, manage household finances, remember birthdays, arrange repairs, plan holidays, complete paperwork. Modern family life increasingly depends upon invisible work, tasks that rarely appear in economic statistics yet consume countless hours every week. Researchers sometimes refer to this as the mental load, the continual planning, organising and remembering that keeps a household functioning. Although this responsibility can be shared in many different ways between families, it has become an increasingly recognised part of modern life. And then there's something else: choice. Previous generations often had fewer choices to make. Today, we choose between dozens of streaming services, hundreds of insurance policies, thousands of financial products, and an almost endless flow of information competing for our attention. Choice brings freedom, but it also requires time. Time to compare, time to research, time to decide. The digital world has given us extraordinary convenience. It has also created an economy that competes relentlessly for our attention. Every notification, every recommendation, every breaking news alert, every social media feed. Each one asks for a few more seconds. Individually, those seconds seem insignificant. Collectively, they can shape entire days. Perhaps that's why so many people describe themselves as permanently busy without always feeling productive. Not because they're working every minute, but because their attention is constantly being divided. And when attention becomes fragmented, genuine rest becomes harder to find. This raises an uncomfortable possibility. What if the greatest shortage facing modern society isn't money? What if it's uninterrupted time? Because when people feel they never have enough time, it affects far more than their calendars. It changes family life, relationships, health, communities, and ultimately, how connected we feel to one another. To understand that, we need to look at something that statistics often struggle to measure: community. And why, despite living closer together than ever before, so many people say they've never felt more alone. Ask someone what makes a good life, and very few people begin by talking about money. They talk about family, friends, neighbors, a sense of belonging, knowing that if something went wrong, someone would notice. For thousands of years, communities formed naturally around where people lived, worked, and worshipped. Children often played together after school without organized schedules. Neighbors knew each other's names. Local shops recognized their regular customers. Sports clubs, community groups, and voluntary organizations gave people places to meet beyond work and family life. Of course, this wasn't a perfect world. Many communities faced poverty, discrimination, and limited opportunities. Not everyone experienced the same sense of belonging. It's important not to romanticize the past, but it is equally important to ask whether something valuable has gradually changed. Today, we are connected to more people than at any point in history. A message can travel across the world in seconds. Video calls allow grandparents to speak with grandchildren living thousands of miles away. Communities can now exist online as well as offline. For many people, particularly those living with disabilities, caring responsibilities, or in remote areas, digital communication has opened doors that once remained firmly closed. Technology has undoubtedly expanded our ability to stay connected, yet surveys in many developed countries continue to show growing concern about loneliness and social isolation. How can both of those things be true at the same time? Part of the answer may lie in the difference between being connected and feeling connected. Scrolling through hundreds of updates isn't necessarily the same as having someone to call during a difficult moment. Collecting followers isn't the same as building friendships. Seeing people's lives through carefully selected photographs isn't the same as sharing everyday experiences together. Modern life has also changed the spaces where relationships once developed naturally. Many people shop online rather than visiting local high streets. Bank branches have closed in many communities as digital banking has become the norm. Working from home has brought enormous benefits for millions of people, including greater flexibility and less commuting. But for some, it has also reduced the casual conversations that once happened in offices, cafes, and workplaces. Even our leisure time has changed. Instead of gathering around a single television program watched by an entire nation, entertainment has become personalized. Instead of browsing bookshops or music stores, recommendations now arrive through algorithms. Instead of speaking to neighbors over the garden fence, many conversations now take place in neighborhood messaging groups. None of these developments are inherently negative. In many cases, they are more convenient, more efficient, and more inclusive. The question isn't whether technology is good or bad, it's whether convenience has gradually replaced some of the experiences that helped people feel rooted in a community. There's another change that's often overlooked. Modern life has become increasingly mobile. People move cities for university, move again for work, move again for better opportunities. This mobility creates exciting possibilities. It also means many adults live hundreds, sometimes thousands of miles away from the people they grew up with. Building new friendships as an adult can be surprisingly difficult. Unlike school or university, there are fewer environments where people regularly meet others without making a deliberate effort. This matters because loneliness isn't simply an emotional issue. Research has linked prolonged social isolation with poorer physical and mental health outcomes, affecting everything from stress and sleep to overall well-being. If housing, work, and finances shape the practical side of life, community shapes the human side, because even if we can afford a home, pay the bills, and build a career, most people would still struggle to describe life as fulfilling without meaningful relationships. And perhaps nowhere is this changing landscape more visible than in the lives of children. The next generation is growing up in a world unlike any before it. A world where childhood itself is being reshaped by technology, education, and social change. Every generation believes childhood has changed, and in every generation, to some extent, it has. Today's children have opportunities that previous generations could only have imagined. Many have instant access to libraries of information that once required hours in a public library. They can speak to relatives living on the other side of the world with the press of a button. Educational resources, language learning, creativity, and communication have all become more accessible through technology. In many ways, children are growing up in an extraordinary age. But alongside those opportunities come new questions that parents, teachers, and governments are still trying to answer. How much screen time is too much? When should a child own their first smartphone? How do we protect children online while still allowing them to benefit from the digital world? What effect does social media have on confidence, friendships, and mental well-being? These are questions that simply didn't exist on the same scale a generation ago. For many parents, childhood has become something that requires constant management. School, homework, clubs, sports, music lessons, medical appointments, online safety, digital devices, transport, childcare. Weekends that were once unstructured are now often carefully organised. Many parents speak of feeling caught between two competing responsibilities. They want to provide every opportunity for their children, but they also worry that childhood itself has become increasingly scheduled, supervised, and pressured. Education has changed too. Today's students are entering a world where artificial intelligence is beginning to reshape the workplace. Some of the jobs today's children will eventually do may not even exist yet. At the same time, occupations that have existed for generations are evolving rapidly as technology becomes more capable. This creates a new challenge for education systems across the developed world. How do we prepare children for a future that nobody can describe with certainty? Different countries are approaching this question in different ways. Some are investing heavily in digital skills. Others are placing renewed emphasis on critical thinking, creativity, and problem solving. Many are trying to achieve both. Parents are asking similar questions. Should children spend more time learning technology or less? Should schools embrace artificial intelligence or limit its use? Should classrooms become more digital or protect traditional methods of learning? These are not simple choices, because technology itself isn't the problem. Like every major innovation throughout history, it brings remarkable opportunities alongside genuine risks. The challenge is learning how to use it wisely. Meanwhile, another quiet transformation is taking place. The cost of raising children has increased significantly in many developed countries. Housing, childcare, education, transport, food, clothing, activities, healthcare, depending on where people live. For many families, these costs have become one of the biggest financial commitments they will ever make. Some governments have responded with childcare support, tax credits, or parental leave policies. Others rely more heavily on private provision. The balance differs widely between countries, yet across much of the developed world, birth rates have been falling. There is no single explanation. People are living longer. Women have greater educational and career opportunities than ever before. Many couples choose to have children later in life or not at all. Economic uncertainty, housing affordability, and childcare costs are also frequently discussed as factors influencing family decisions. The reasons are personal, complex, and often deeply individual. But together, they point towards something much larger. Modern family life is evolving. The expectations placed upon parents have changed. The economics of raising children have changed. Even childhood itself has changed, and that raises an important question for the future. If fewer people are having children and populations are living longer, what does that mean for the societies we are building? Because the decisions we make today won't only affect today's families. They will shape tomorrow's workforce, healthcare systems, pensions, and communities for decades to come. For most of human history, living into old age was far less common than it is today. Advances in medicine, safer workplaces, vaccination, improved sanitation, better nutrition, earlier diagnosis of disease. Together, these developments have helped people live longer than previous generations could have expected. That is one of humanity's greatest achievements. But every success brings new questions. If people are living longer, who pays for longer retirements? Who provides healthcare for growing numbers of older adults? Who fills the jobs left by retiring workers? And if fewer children are being born in many developed countries, who supports tomorrow's economy? These are no longer distant questions for economists or governments. They are becoming everyday questions for millions of families. Across much of Europe, North America, Australia, and parts of East Asia, populations are aging. People are living longer. At the same time, birth rates have fallen below the level needed to replace the population in many developed nations without migration. The result is a gradual shift in the balance between generations. In simple terms, a growing number of older people may increasingly rely on the taxes, services, and care provided by a comparatively smaller working-age population. That doesn't mean society is facing inevitable crisis. Many countries are adapting in different ways. Some are encouraging people to remain in work for longer. Others are investing in automation and artificial intelligence to improve productivity. Some have introduced policies aimed at supporting families who want children. Others rely more heavily on immigration to help address labour shortages. Each approach brings opportunities. Each also brings difficult policy choices. For individuals, these demographic changes often feel much more personal. Many people in their 40s and 50s now find themselves caring for aging parents while still supporting children or young adults. Some researchers describe this as the sandwich generation. Balancing careers, childcare, and elder care simultaneously can place considerable emotional, financial, and practical pressure on households. Retirement itself is changing too. For previous generations, retirement often represented a clear transition. You finished work, collected your pension, and entered a new stage of life. Today, that transition is becoming less straightforward. Some people continue working because they enjoy it. Others do so because they feel financially unable to stop. Many combine part-time employment with retirement. Others return to work after retiring. The picture is becoming more varied than ever before. Healthcare is evolving alongside these demographic changes. Modern medicine has become remarkably successful at helping people survive illnesses that would once have been fatal. As a result, healthcare systems increasingly manage long-term conditions rather than simply treating short-term illness. That is an extraordinary achievement. It is also expensive. Longer lives often require longer periods of healthcare, rehabilitation, and social care. This creates difficult choices for governments across the developed world. How should limited public resources be allocated? How can healthcare remain accessible while demand continues to grow? How do societies support independence and dignity as people live longer? These are not challenges unique to one country. Whether the system is primarily public, private, or a combination of both, aging populations are prompting similar debates across many advanced economies. Yet perhaps the most important lesson is this: the future of aging isn't only about older people, it is about everyone. Because the decisions made today about housing, healthcare, education, work and family life will shape the society that today's younger generations eventually grow old in. And that brings us to perhaps the biggest question of all. When people say that modern life has become harder, what do they actually mean? Is life objectively more difficult than it was decades ago, or have the challenges simply changed? After everything we've explored, it's tempting to search for a simple answer, to declare that life today is either better or worse, but reality rarely fits neatly into those categories. If we compare modern life with that of 50 or even 100 years ago, there is no doubt that many aspects of everyday life have improved dramatically. Medical care has advanced beyond recognition, child mortality has fallen significantly in many parts of the world, life expectancy has increased. Technology has transformed communication, education, and access to information. Millions more people have opportunities that previous generations could never have imagined. In many countries, legal rights and protections have expanded. People with disabilities have greater access to education and employment. Women have broader educational and career opportunities. Knowledge that once belonged to universities and libraries is now available to almost anyone with an internet connection. These are extraordinary achievements. But progress has not eliminated difficulty, it has changed its nature. For many previous generations, hardship was often physical, dangerous workplaces, poor sanitation, limited healthcare, manual labour, food insecurity. Today, many of those challenges have been reduced. Instead, new pressures have emerged: housing affordability, mental health, digital overload, financial insecurity, long-term debt, social isolation, an ageing population, rapid technological change. These problems are less visible than factories or coal mines, but they are no less real to the people experiencing them. Another important distinction is expectation. As societies become wealthier, our expectations naturally rise. Previous generations often expected life to be difficult. Today's societies quite reasonably expect safety, opportunity, affordable housing, quality healthcare, reliable public services, and a healthy work-life balance. When those expectations aren't met, disappointment can feel greater, even if many objective measures of life have improved. There is another factor we shouldn't ignore: comparison. For most of history, people compared themselves with neighbours, friends, or colleagues. Today, social media allows us to compare ourselves with millions of people every single day. Often, we're comparing our ordinary lives with someone else's carefully edited highlights that can create the impression that everyone else is succeeding while we're falling behind. It is an illusion that technology can unintentionally amplify. Perhaps the most important lesson from this investigation is that hardship cannot be measured by a single statistic. A country can experience economic growth while families still struggle to buy homes. Healthcare can become more advanced while waiting times increase. Technology can save hours every week while simultaneously demanding more of our attention. Life can improve in some ways while becoming more complicated in others. That is why debates about whether modern life is better or worse so often become polarized. Both sides are usually observing something real. They are simply looking at different parts of the picture. The real story isn't one of decline, nor is it one of uninterrupted progress. It's a story of transformation. The challenges facing today's families are not the same as those faced by their grandparents, but neither are the opportunities. Every generation inherits a different version of the world. Every generation solves some problems and creates new ones. Perhaps that is the true rhythm of human progress. So, has modern life become harder than it used to be? The evidence suggests there isn't a universal answer. For some people, modern life offers freedoms, opportunities, and security that previous generations could scarcely imagine. For others, rising housing costs, financial pressure, changing work, social isolation, and the pace of modern society have created genuine new burdens. The challenge for governments, businesses, and communities isn't to recreate the past. It's to ensure that the remarkable advances of the future genuinely improve everyday life for ordinary people. Because progress should never be measured solely by faster technology or larger economies. Ultimately, it should be measured by something much simpler. Whether people feel able to build a secure home, raise a family if they choose, enjoy good health, find meaningful work, spend time with those they love, and look towards the future with confidence rather than uncertainty. That is the measure that matters most. And that brings us to the end of today's deep dive. We hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share this content to help us reach a wider audience. I'm Sophie Jones-Redway. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you